Today, we're going to talk about chart of the day and show you something new and give you a new perspective. What I like to talk about is something from the visual capitalist. And what they like to talk about is money in markets. And we're going to go quickly, and I have a point to make at the end. So let's get started. Let me show you how this visualization works. They're using one of these squares to represent $100 billion, and then they're going to show you different types of markets. So let's give an example of a square. Here's a square. Like I said, it's $100 billion, and here are some examples of what's inside the square. TikTok's revenue, $4 billion. That's literally a square. Then you've got Lego's revenue, which is a really cool company. I don't know if you've ever been to Legoland. I'm not into the movies, but Legoland is really cool and it's hands-on. Sometimes it's good to actually get outside. On the left here, value of NFTs exchanged on OpenSea. It's $5 billion. Now think about that. NFTs are an emerging technology, and it's already $5 billion on just one exchange. What else is interesting? FTX's financial hole. It's $8 billion, so it's a pretty big rectangle. And LeBron James on the bottom right corner, net worth of $1 billion. Now, you can go to this website yourself. It's thevisualcapitalist.com, and you could get to this table so you could actually see the numbers with your own eyes. But what I'm going to do is look at it with the way it's meant to look at. They want you to look at it from a visual point of view. So let's get started. Sam Bankman-Fried, peak net worth. I don't know if you could see that. There was a big square, and then went it down to a little square because he's one of the richest young dudes in the world, and I think he's lost almost everything actually. Here they've got him being worth $1 billion today. I don't think so. I think he's worth closer to zero. And even if he's worth $1 billion, he's going to get sued. So I would put him at zero right now. Okay, sports teams, $340 billion. Cryptocurrency I'm going to get back to. Russia versus Ukraine, 1.8 versus 2.2 billion for Ukraine. Here's an interesting one on two levels. Number one, it's $2.1 trillion for global spending on military. But the biggest point I want to make, the number 2 point is the U.S. is always talking about, oh my God, China's catching up to us. Really? They've got a lot of catching up to do. Currency, it's $8 trillion. But remember, this is tangible currency. Money you can touch and feel. Gold. Actually, gold, $1,800 as I speak. So it's closer to $12 trillion, not 11.5. And so just keep that number in mind because we're going to talk about Bitcoin. So it's worth about $12 trillion. The world's billionaires, I don't think I need to talk to you about them. We all know who they are. Usual suspects. Almost $13 trillion. Central bank balance sheets. This is huge. It's $28 trillion. S&P 500, again, huge. $36 trillion. Keep that number in mind. The U.S.-China GDP, big numbers, 23 and 18. Global money supply, huge, $49 trillion. So this is not just tangible money. This includes banknotes, check and deposits. That's M1. Then you got M2. So it just gets larger when you go from M1 to M2. Then you got the stock markets. They're huge. Global debt, $300 trillion. And I want to focus on this one because I talked about in previous videos that the Fed cannot raise rates as aggressively as they have before because the global markets have become monetized. And this is what I mean by monetize. There's a lot of debt backing up the growth of GDP, and even corporate EBITDA and corporate earnings are backed by debt. So we have to be careful with that. And households are backed by debt too, but not as much as they could be. I think, and you're going to see here, I'm scrolling down to governments and financial and households. You can see compared to 2020, non-financial corporate debt has risen 16%, but household debt has risen 14%. So there's still more wiggle room for household debt. They can still increase their debt. Global real estate is $326 trillion, so it's huge, and a lot of it's residential. And what I want to do now is scroll down to derivatives, because it's huge. Derivatives is huge at $12.4 trillion. That's a very large number, and that's what's called. I believe this is the notional value. Nope, I'm sorry. The notional value is $600 trillion. So this is an underlying value. If you took the number from the underlying contract and multiplied it by the number of contract owned. So it's a lot of underlying notional value contracts. And this is mostly futures and forwards. And this is where damage could be done. This is where things can break, because sometimes we lose control of this. We don't know how much leverage there is sometimes. I mean, we're supposed to, but it's not all transparent. That's a good word to use. And I like the way they say keep scrolling, just to show you how much value there is. Remember, each these squares is $100 billion. So you're talking about a huge monetization of, I would even argue, speculation of the economy. So this is pretty scary. So if you go to this one, you can see the table here. In the bottom, you could see $600 trillion in notional value and $12.4 trillion in market value. And you could see all the different data that I mentioned to you. So I promised I would talk about cryptocurrency in the end, and here we are. They say 760. We're closer to 8. But what I want to talk to you about is that $60 billion of this, so let's say we're closer to $800 billion. So if you take $800 billion, because this number is old. So if you take $800 billion and you take away $60 billion, you get about $740. So $740 billion is really small. And especially if you consider it peaked at $2.8 trillion in 2021. So the cryptocurrency is really small at whatever number you want to consider. Let's just say this face value here is 760. And then you take away the stable coins. A lot of them are backed by US dollar reserves or money market reserves. So you can see the cryptocurrency number is still small. If you compare it to gold, gold is, as I said, gold's at $1,800 per ounce. Excuse me. So if you compare about 11.5 to $12 trillion in gold compared to over here, the number that's shown, 760 in cryptocurrency, you can see cryptocurrency still pales in relation to many of these other numbers, whether you're looking at gold, central bank assets, the value of the S&P 500, the money supply. Cryptocurrency is still small. So I think just looking at these numbers that we have a pretty big runway for cryptocurrency. And of course, there are many other ways of viewing cryptocurrency. I just want to show you one way of comparing cryptocurrency as shown to you by the infamous crypto capitalist. And that's what we have right here. They like to visualize different data points. And this is from November 28, 2022. Well, thank you all for listening. And please come back to Lamb's Cryptoverse. Bye-bye.